You imagine a different life, a bigger one, clearer, more meaningful. You see yourself doing things you're not doing right now. And for a moment it feels real. But then the moment passes, and nothing changes. Not because you don't care, not because you're lazy, but because something inside you stops you, quietly. So the question isn't, why don't you act? It's deeper than that. Why does your mind feel satisfied just imagining what you never actually do? 2. Problem deep dive. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. You have ideas, plans, ambitions. You think about starting something. You even prepare a little. You watch videos. You research. You imagine outcomes. But when it comes to action, you pause. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I just need more clarity. I'm not ready yet. And those thoughts feel reasonable. That's the part that makes it hard to notice. Because nothing feels obviously wrong. But inside, something is happening. You feel a quiet tension. A gap between who you are and who you could be. And instead of closing that gap through action, your mind starts closing it another way. Through imagination. You picture success. You rehearse conversations. You visualize outcomes. And for a moment it feels like progress. Like you're moving. But you're not. And slowly, you start getting used to that feeling. The feeling of almost becoming something, without actually becoming it. And over time, this changes how you see yourself. You begin to identify with potential, instead of behavior. I could do this. I have ideas. I'm capable. All true. But none of it is being tested. So your identity stays safe, untouched, unchallenged. And that safety becomes addictive. 3. Reframe. This is where most people misunderstand themselves. They think, I'm just lazy. I lack discipline. I don't have motivation. But that's not accurate. Because laziness doesn't think this much. Laziness doesn't imagine deeply. It doesn't care about becoming something more. What you're experiencing is not a lack of desire. It's a protection mechanism. Your brain isn't stopping you from success. It's stopping you from something else. Something less obvious. The risk of reality. Because once you act, the dream becomes measurable. And once it's measurable, it can fail. And failure doesn't just affect outcomes. It affects identity. So your brain makes a quiet trade. It gives you the emotional reward of imagining success, without exposing you to the risk of testing it. And that trade feels safe. But it comes at a cost. 4. Psychological mechanism. To understand this, you have to look at how the brain handles reward. When you imagine achieving something, your brain releases a small amount of dopamine, the same chemical involved in motivation and reward. But here's the problem. Dopamine doesn't distinguish well between imagined success and real progress. So when you vividly picture your future, starting the business, changing your life, becoming better, your brain gives you a partial reward before you've done anything. This is called anticipatory reward. It's meant to motivate action. But when overused, it replaces action. Because your brain thinks, we already felt something good, why risk losing that? Now combine that with something else. Fear of evaluation. The moment you act, your idea leaves your mind and enters reality. And reality has feedback. People respond. Results appear. Mistakes happen. So your brain predicts, if I try, I might fail. But more importantly, if I fail, what does that say about me? This is identity threat. And the brain treats threats to identity very seriously. So instead of pushing you forward, it pulls you into simulation. A safer loop. Imagine, feel rewarded, avoid risk, repeat. Here's a simple mental model. Think of your dreams like a movie your brain keeps replaying. Each time you watch it, you feel something. But you're still sitting in the same seat. And the longer you stay there, the harder it feels to stand up. 5. Practical framework. So, how do you break this without forcing yourself into fake motivation? Not by removing dreams, but by changing how your brain relates to them. Step 1. Reduce emotional reward from imagination. What to do? Limit how vividly you visualize outcomes. Why it works. It prevents premature dopamine release, keeping motivation tied to real action. Example: instead of imagining your future success in detail, focus only on the next small step. Not the result, just the action. Step 2. Make action smaller than identity risk. What to do? Break actions into versions that feel too small to threaten your identity. Why it works. The brain resists actions that feel like identity tests. Smaller actions feel safer. Example: don't start a business. Write one idea. Send one message. The brain doesn't see this as a threat, so it allows it. Step 3. Shift from outcome identity to process identity. What to do? Define yourself by what you do, not what you might become. Why it works. It removes pressure from results and stabilizes self-concept. Example: instead of "I want to be successful," shift to "I'm someone who shows up daily." That identity is built through repetition, not imagination. Step 4. Introduce real feedback early. What to do? Expose your ideas to reality sooner than feels comfortable. Why it works. Feedback reduces uncertainty and weakens fear-based predictions. Example: share your idea before it feels perfect. Let reality shape it, not your imagination. Step 5. Allow imperfect action without identity collapse. What to do? Separate results from self-worth. Why it works. The brain avoids action when failure feels personal. This reduces that threat. Example: you try something. It doesn't work. Instead of "I failed," you shift to "that attempt didn't work." Small difference, huge impact. 6. Integration. All of this comes down to one shift. You stop using imagination as a replacement for action and start using it as a direction. There's a difference. One keeps you comfortable. The other moves you forward. Think of your mind not as a planner, but as a simulator. It shows possibilities, but it's not meant to live in them. You're not supposed to stay in the movie. You're supposed to step out of it, even if the first step is small, even if it's unclear. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from interacting with reality. 7. Quiet, empowering, close. You don't dream big because you're unrealistic. You dream big because you can see something more. That's not the problem. The problem is when the vision becomes a place you escape to instead of a direction you move toward. So the next time you imagine a better life, pause. Not to go deeper into the dream, but to ask something simpler. What is the smallest real thing I can do right now? And then do it. Not perfectly, not confidently, just honestly. Because the life you keep imagining was never meant to stay in your head. It was meant to be built, one small action at a time.